things which is assimilated as raw material called data, and this wonderful algorithm, also referred to as deep neural network, people call it deep learning, and with available compute is able to bring you intelligence that helps human augment. And this is for the very first time that's happening. Now, I'll be remiss if I wasn't to talk about the company that you and I represent. The birth of NVIDIA took place in '93. As many of you probably know, this was a peak of personal computers. But there were three people who were basically looking at this opportunity to start a company over an observation that PCs only work during office hours. But humans not only work during office hours, but after work hours, they play. So why shouldn't a personal means yours and mine, why shouldn't personal computer also extend its life beyond work? The big question, of course, was PC designed for that? While the world decided that, hey, it's wonderful that every human will have a personal computer for their productivity, the set of three people started saying, how about making sure that this personal productivity tool also entertains you? And the deeper question behind that was, can PC solve that problem? The answer was no. And many people, when they get a no, they decide to leave the discussion. They said if there's a no, that means there's an opportunity. If there's an opportunity, that means there's a longevity of the company. And if you're going to be operating in the world of entertainment, which is a virtual world, which is the other world that you're going to compare? The world that you're going to compare is the real world. So can we bring the virtual world closer to the real world so humans can enjoy their personal productivity tool? And that's why NVIDIA decided right at the beginning, the purpose of our company is to solve hard computing problems that general purpose compute can't. And by virtue of that, we said we're going to stand at an intersection of simulation where physics, virtual worlds, and AI meet together, and therefore create the experience what you and I have in real world. So that's as far as the company is concerned. But I also promised you we're going to do salsa. He's not going to do it. So I'm going to basically tell you more about him. You were wonderful to tell a lot about him. Everything that you spoke, I learned first time about him. But I also want to tell you a few things that I learned first time about him. He's a great friend with Mick Jagger. And Mick Jagger has taught him how Indians live their life through cricket.
Which I still don't understand.
And he tried explaining him through baseball, what's the difference between baseball and cricket. So he's still trying to figure out. He wanted to have a trip with Mick Jagger to India. Apparently, the Mumbai rain stalled him. Then I said, as Vishal Dhupar, Dhup means solar, sunny. So I said, come on a sunny day to Mumbai at Waves and experience India. And this was his definition, that I'm in India, highly vibrant, highly energetic, beautiful to be photographed, stays very close to each other. Every vehicle is only 4 inches away from each other. I don't know how you do it, but somehow you do it. Come, let's talk to people about what we can do together. So let's basically meet him, make him the lead dancer, and let's ask him certain questions. For someone who has been in technology, someone who has been on live stage, someone who has basically understood the change part of life, adoption towards it, and is probably undergoing the biggest change right now. What have you seen, Richard, in real life, especially for the entertainment industry, for the media industry? What are some of the examples that you can share with all the wonderful people who are in this audience?
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. It's my first time to India, and as he said, it's an amazing place. I'm shocked at how the traffic moves, and there's no dents on any cars, and they do come within a few inches of each other. It's an organized chaos, and it's beautiful. It's like ballet in a sense. To the extent of what we're talking about with AI and media and entertainment, we've seen a number of changes in the media space over the years, certainly since I've been in it. We went from analog to digital, 3D graphics became photorealistic and now real time. And now with this wave of AI, what we're seeing is the ability to harness the power of AI and utilize it as a tool in media and entertainment. Now, I know one of the points earlier was, does it replace jobs? We've always heard this AI is replacing jobs, and it usually comes from a point of not understanding what AI truly is. It's not that long ago in the music industry when synthesizers and sampling came out, and everybody said, oh, it's going to replace jobs. And it didn't. It became a new tool for the artist. You can go back further. Matte painting used to be a very specialized technique for filmmakers. Then Photoshop came along and replaced that. But what it does is it disrupts the industry. It creates new opportunities for artists. It expands the creative palette. And with AI, we're seeing all of that and more. For the first time, you're able to harness this power and utilize it in new and interesting ways. But the thing that's always important to remember in the context of the movie, the film that you're making, the TV show or the game, it's always about the story, right? So AI is a means to an end. It's a tool that helps you in that journey to tell the story. But it's not replacing something. What it's doing is giving you accelerated compute. And we've seen this over and over in the media and entertainment space. And what we're seeing right now is a new frontier. And this new frontier is bringing this power to more creative individuals across the globe. You can see amazing work being done on handhelds. You can see amazing work being done in the movie theater and everything in between. And all of that really comes down to the idea of the accelerated compute, being able to focus on something and do it very, very fast and very, very well. And to be able to train that on a machine learning environment that can be something that you can utilize, whether it's understanding an environment that you want to create or creating an avatar that you want to have a dialogue with. There's all different opportunities. We are truly in the next generation of compute. As our CEO Jensen has said, originally computers were pretty much task-oriented. You'd tell them, or you'd learn how to use a software package, and you would get something out of it. But now they become something where you can instruct the computer something you want it to go do, and it will go off and learn something or bring you back information, study things for you, and you get to have a dialogue with it. You become more in control of the compute than you ever have before. So in media and entertainment, we can utilize that for things like creating backgrounds, creating characters, creating effects. Things that used to take a lot of people a long period of time to do is now being reduced to a much faster period of time because of this. So what does that mean? It means we're democratizing the technology so more people can tell stories. And nowhere is that more evident here and what's going on with Waves is to be able to bring that creative vision out to more and more people across the globe. So it's a very exciting time for us.
Isn't it really? Think about it for a second. Everybody says India missed out on the computing revolution. Now, it's counterintuitive. Think about it. India's greatest export happens through its people who are in technology. Our industry in India is probably unique, where exports are 5 times of the domestic consumption. Our nation is known for its people, but the number of people who know the language of the computer, who know how to type on the computer, is sub 1%. So let's assume it's 1%. 99% of the people never knew how to work with a computer or use a computer or to program the computer, but in just short span of 12 years, everybody can now program the computer. That computer could be your smartphone. Your computer could be your gaming gig. Your computer could be a little musical instrument that you may have. And now you are augmented in your life as a creator, as a builder, as someone who's enjoying it. What a beautiful thing for India to happen, and happen at a time when India basically had shortage of a compute fabric, akin to the same time when some of you who are less with hair like mine would remember that we used to walk towards the PCO to make telephone calls. We used to go to our neighbor's house to request if we could make calls. And today, if I tap into most of you, you're probably carrying 2 phones in your pockets. And that happened because we leapfrogged. That's the same leapfrog opportunity for India. And to an architecture that allows everybody to speak, even someone like me, who has a terrible English, can now talk to the computer, program it, and make it dance to my tune, and almost do salsa with the computer rather than with you, Richard, and you'll be pretty happy with that. But you know, the larger portion is that you have been in the industry. Creative people are extremely sensitive about their work, and they love their work. And it was just a few weeks back, there was a new model that was released, and the statement stated that GPUs are melting. Did anybody hear that statement? GPUs are melting? Earlier we used to say CPUs, which CPU builds computer. Now suddenly the headline says GPU. Why did that happen? Firstly, it happened fundamentally because when we did handwritten codes, CPUs did their job. When you do machine learning, then you use GPU, so the word comes GPU. Now GPU is not a replacement to CPU. CPU and GPU basically becomes your tool. But what it said was that with the announcement that OpenAI made for the new model, the artwork from Japan became so popular that there was a shortage of computing. They called it GPUs are melting. Now think about that 1.5 billion Indians wanting to enjoy the artistry of Japan with innovation and, more importantly, the discipline of creativity, and bringing a little bit of spice with our own chaotic part, and wanting to do, won't it bring wonderful smiles on everyone? And that's the creativity we're talking about. But on the other side, the person, Ghibli Artworks, probably is feeling that, hey, what I created over the years, it seems to have disappeared just because there's a fancy tool that allows you to do that. So what are your thoughts around this part?
That's a great point, because I've heard that, and I think to the first part on GPUs are melting, I think that's indicative of how interesting and how much people want to use these technologies. Okay, so they weren't actually melting; they were just in high demand. The idea on the Ghibli and the concerns, is it duplicating something that an artist spent time to do, right? But we see this over and over with artwork, right? I don't think the artist who's creating these stays stagnant. Like, I've never known an artist that creates one thing and says, I'm never going to do anything else, and everything that I've done is there. Then that's a stagnant position. Usually they evolve, and things come from that. And if somebody is inspired by that artist to make something that looks like it, it's like an architect that looks like a building and creates something that's similar to it, or a musician that hears music and creates something that's similar to it. That's the whole purpose of art, is you learn from one another and you progress with it. The fact that you can now, with a push button, transform an image into something that was a traditional art piece from Japan is not too dissimilar. That, you know, it wasn't that long ago that you could take a photo and make it look like a painting, or you could take a photo and make it look like a drawing, and things like that. These are just natural progressions, and I think the fact that more people now know what that art is a wonderful thing, right? When you think about it in that context, it's very complimentary. It's something that I think artists look at and say, okay, you're pushing me as an artist to do more, because now that you've taken something I've done and you've been able to share it with the world and make it easy to access, I'm going to do something more. And I think that's the nature of great artists to begin with. So it should push us all forward, right? And I think the point that you were making too about historically with computers, we were like slaves to the computer, if you will. If you wanted to learn how to use software, you had to have a manual and you had to spend time and you had to understand how the software would work to the way the computer wanted it to work. Now, with AI, we're getting to prompt and talk and instruct the computer. It's more like it's our servant now, and we are the ones that are in control of it. So it gives us a lot more flexibility to do creative endeavors without having to go through a stack of manuals. You were talking earlier about, the days of Maya when we first brought out like the revolutionary 3D software from Alias Wavefront. It had 6 big manuals with it. It took up a bookshelf like this, right? And people that became very proficient on it spent years to understand how to use it and harness it and what all the different tools were and how it evolved and all of those kinds of things. The fact that now with generative AI, we can create 3D, not to the same finesse and quality of that, but it'll get there soon enough. It just means that we're going from point A to B faster, right? Because the only reason that those software things were being used is because it replaced the idea of building it in a model shop. Before 3D compute, those miniatures for movies were done in a model shop. People built them like models, and the cameras would photograph them. Then as 3D computers come along, it kind of replaces that, but it disrupts that industry. So a lot of model makers learned how to use computers, became wonderful computer artists. I think if you're going to harness this power, you still have to understand the basics of what it takes to create a 3D object or to make a scene in a film or anything like that. Just because you have this power doesn't make everybody the artist, right? It gives you the power to play with it, and that's great. Everyone should. But in the same token, just because we have a camera on our phone doesn't make everybody the best photographer in the world. Okay, so just the fact that you can prompt a computer to make an image, unless you know how to compose the shot that you want to create and you know how to tell a story and you know all the basics about that, you're just playing. And which is fine, but when people ask, well, how do I get started? I want to be a computer artist using generative AI and stuff. My instruction is always go to the basics first. Understand how to make a film. Understand what a dolly is and a tracking and the different types of lenses and things. Because if you know that, then you can instruct the computer in a way that's going to give you the kind of results that you want. Right? You don't, as a chef, you don't just walk in the kitchen and grab a bunch of spices and throw it in the pot and make something, right? If you don't know what those spices do and you don't know how to put it all together, you're not going to make anything appetizing. Same holds true in any of these disciplines. So if you want to know how to harness the power of AI with these computes, know what it is you want to do with it, whether you're using it in media and entertainment, you're using it in industrial, things like that. The only way you're going to produce the kind of quality that you want is to understand the basics of what it takes to make that. These are just tools, and these tools are getting better all the time. But if you don't know what the tool is that you want to do or the story you want to tell, then you're going to continue to play. So I think that's an important aspect to these
So
things.
beautifully said. What I captured, though, that humans are better teachers than learners. When we had the opportunity to learn, only 1% of the population learned it. When we are teachers, we have a potential to have all 100%. But the second part was rather remarkable, that even as a good teacher, you need to understand your tools, your recipes, and the art of applying that. I'm wondering, Richard, from the context of India, 5,000 years of culture, nuances, sensibilities, our own way of entertaining, excitement, and despite being very close to each other, not scratching each other, that's an art by itself. And if we have to take this artwork, this creativity, this storytelling, and bring in the Western world into this part, and vice versa, so that the world could be that much nicer. The world could get the best of all the places. How do you feel that AI and our ability to use AI, and as AI progresses from generating new content to getting automated in its processes and finally playing in the physical world, where do you see there's an opportunity called India, like the Prime Minister says, today is India's opportunity to be the capital of content. Do you really
Absolutely.
feel that that's a possibility?
Absolutely. And it's important to know that India has been in the film and visual effects business for quite a long time. But it's always been outsourced from the major studios in Hollywood. Projects would be sent to India to do rotoscoping or to do, various parts of animations and things like that. It was a service-based entity, right? And I think there's an opportunity there because there's an understanding of what it took to create all of that. So you already have a knowledge base for this. Just learning about all the culture and all of the things that are here, there are so many stories to be told. And when I first heard about the Waves Conference, I really moved my schedule around to be sure to be here. Because when you have this much creativity and this much, culture, the rest of the world should know about it and learn about it. And, it is funny with the traffic. I was meeting with some game developers yesterday, and I said, somebody's got to create a game for the Western world to try to drive in Mumbai, because I think that would be something very adventurous and fun. But even more than that, in the fun spot of things, there's the culture, there's this history. There's such a long, long history here with so many stories to be told. And if that can get out, to your point, it can help unify people in the world. Knowing one another is what makes people get along. Not knowing one another is what makes people different and have differences and things like that. So I kind of look at it as a really important shift for a lot of reasons. Be able to share the stories with the rest of the globe, but be able to unify with the rest of the globe as well. Right? We are smaller as a world because of our communication capabilities, and with stories to be told and history to be shared, going to be even smaller, which is a great thing. I think it helps us all to get along, especially in these days, right?
And communication is so important. Did you know that we speak 23 official languages, but every 50 kilometers, we change the dialect?
Right. There's like 400 dialects, I understood.
I heard 1,500. They may
Oh my
say
gosh.
2,000.
Well, there's a need for a computer model to be trained so that I can have an earpiece in, and no matter where I go and who do I talk to, I could get it translated on the fly, right? That's something, we're starting to see this happen now with AI models, but what a great opportunity here. You have so much complexity across the society, and you can simplify it so people from the outside can come in and immediately understand things, or at least be able to communicate better. Right? I think that's a really important aspect.
And you were telling me that you were very, very keen to listen to the keynote spoken in Hindi, trying to be understood in English with a latency of 15 seconds, you said?
Yeah, I was listening to the translation, and after a while I just took it off because I could understand from, the excitement and the intensity of the speaker, the Prime Minister, that I could get what he was talking about. Even though I didn't understand the exact words, I could tell the passion and the intensity, and it was exciting. And I recorded it a lot on my phone. I'll listen to it later and get more dialogue. But you can tell the passion from something like that. And the fact that it was a latency thing said to me, we've got a project to do. Right? We need to make that instantaneous. So you could have your headset in your ear, your AirPod or whatever, and you're hearing it in the language you need as it's being spoken, not delayed. Because why? Because that brings the passion of whatever that point is at the same time as that you're learning it and hearing it. So I think that's a really important aspect.
I think it's so important that fundamentally when we hear right, I can see you, sir. I know you're agreeing with me because I can read your lips, your expressions. And we need to do that with the tool itself. Wasn't it right that we learned the art to synchronize lips with the audio?
Yeah, there's a whole technology that's emerging right now that's using AI to do the translations for films. One of the things that we have as an initiative at NVIDIA is what we call Media 2, which is really the AI throughout all the different media workflows. And one of the most important ones that's starting out on that is doing translations, right? But it's important to know that when you're translating it, a few things have to take place, right? You don't want to see the translation and the lips not talking at night, right? We've seen that for years. If you're a Godzilla movie fan, you'd see it in the U.S. and nothing made sense, but you still watch it. But so you have to solve for that problem first. Then you also have to solve for what the dialect is pertaining to the particular region. Because in like Los Angeles, my example was in Los Angeles, they may say something a certain way, but in Mumbai, they're going to say that same point, but they're going to say it a different way. So AI is also learning not only how to conform the dialect and move the mouth and everything so that they're actually speaking it, but to understand where it is in the region that I'm presenting it so that it can be pertinent to the person that's hearing it in that particular space. So these are new frontiers that are taking place, and there's a number of companies that are spearheading this right now in the industry, but we're just getting started, right? This is so exciting for us in the media and entertainment space because we're seeing what the possibilities are to be able to have a release of a film come out and be global day one and have it be global because of AI ability to personalize it for wherever it's going. So you're going to start to see a lot more what we call hyper-localized content coming. You know, if you look at streaming technology right now, when a movie is made, there's usually a lot of different versions of that movie to be streamed out. Are you going to watch it on your home TV? You're going to watch it on your mobile device? You're going to watch it in a theater? Where in the world are you going to watch it? So a lot of times a movie gets made and they're storing hundreds of copies of it online in order to satisfy the market. With AI, you're going to have one version stored, and it's on the stream that goes out. AI is going to be able to conform to the particular destination of where it's going, whether it's in the region or the device that you're watching on, and things like that. So this enables more content to be more personalized anywhere in the world. And that's another big, major advancement, which helps the creative process, right? Because what is a creative process? They want to tell their story, and they want more people to hear it.
So what you're saying, basically, India is a land of diversity, India land of population. We speak in multiple languages, practice everything together to unify with AI here in India, and more importantly, translate ourselves as an opportunity of once in a lifetime to take AI and make India the place for content, place which is known as a capital of content, a place which is known as a capital of intelligence. Think about it for a second. When we say fashion, what's the name that comes in your mind? Paris, Milan. Do you think that all the textile of the world is produced in Italy or France? Not really. But they create a demand, an aspiration, and desire for you to be like them. Imagine taking this 5,000 years of culture and building that up here, first to understand each other, understand all the 1.4 billion people together, able to do that, and then absorb it in the world culture, how much difference we can make. Think about it for a second. We started this whole conversation with India being known for its software skills, for its typing skills, for writing the code. Somebody told me the other day that if you took all lines of software written today from 1964 onwards, every 8th line of software code is written by Indian. And yet, when we search, Google owns it. When we socialize, Facebook owns it. When you want to do short chats, Insta does it. When you want to take quick photographs, Snapchat does it. What happened? You wrote the code, you forgot to apply, but yet they say God is kind. One more opportunity. Humans are smart, like Kevin Kelly often says. Not only God is nice, but humans have a capability to surprise God, because God left us with a special feature called creation process. And we took all things and made it look like humans or like living beings. And today the Indians have that opportunity to make things look like Indian nuances, all the goodness of India, and bring it to the world by connecting India together and bringing it out together. I think that's the dance, that's the salsa that we spoke about. And hopefully you had lots to think about it. We're happy to answer any of your questions that you may have.
When I talk about it in the media and entertainment space, it's like the same context in accelerated compute. So here's a perfect example. When people say, well, accelerated compute uses more energy than a CPU does. And they go, so it's going to cost more. Well, actually, it's going to produce the product that is faster, so it's actually going to be cheaper. Even though it may take more energy to do it, it's going to do it. And we're constantly using AI in the evolution of our technologies to make it more cost efficient, to make it less energetic, less demand on energy and things like that. But in the media and entertainment space, look, people are making content on their mobile phones. It wasn't that long ago that you needed a silicon graphics machine to do the kind of stuff that you're doing on a mobile phone today. So I think it's much, much cheaper and it's much more democratized in that context. So, but to be fair, having not heard the entire thing that Sam talked about, I'm talking about it in the media and entertainment space. But overall, AI is the next revolution in compute, and it's affecting every single aspect of our lives. Healthcare, automotive, you name it, it's going to affect it, right? So I think that's a good thing, right?
And more importantly, I think the better way to look at it, it's writing the software. And software's got everything encoded, which is intelligence. And the whole objective is to bring intelligence to marginal cost.
And there's a point to make there, which when people say, "Oh, it writes the software," right? If you don't know what software can do and you don't understand how a program can run, telling the AI to write something, it's going to go, "What do you want?" Well, I don't know, make Photoshop. Well, it's not going to make Photoshop for you if you don't understand, I need color palettes, I need this, I need that, et cetera, et cetera. It's that same analogy to the chef in the kitchen with the spices. If you don't know what you're after, then you're not going to be able to do it. So it's important to understand those basics of what makes something happen is absolutely appropriate in the world of AI. If you know how to make a good film, using AI is going to enable you to do it quicker. If you know how to write software, you're going to be the controller or the producer of the AI that helps you generate that software quicker. You have to understand what you're after in order to be able to harness that power.
And what we should be after is the language called tokens. The language of artificial intelligence is tokens per rupee, per dollar. We got to get our digital experience, yours and my digital experience, the token valued. What we buy, what we manage, what we sell. Because that belongs to us as individuals. It belongs to our country as our nation. We got to do it here. And that's why I say this is the greatest opportunity to export. If skills of people gave us the semblance that we are super good, can you believe how much with tools, with machine, how much better we can be and how much more we can contribute to our GDP? Amazingly well. So tokens. Tokens is really important. Good friend Brain is there, the only one who listens to me. Thank you very much.
What do you think is the extent of claiming ownership of content created, specifically images created on, AI-based software like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it comes up frequently. First of all, how you train the software is important, right? And so companies like Adobe and Getty and others understand that the training of that software is important. But I want to point out something that's incredibly important around the content that gets created through prompting and to create an image with generative AI. It's not a collage. And what I mean by that is it's not, if I've trained software on a bunch of images, it doesn't take a piece of that image and a piece of that image and a piece of that image, which would be something that is into itself an issue with copyright. What it does is it learns from those things what those are. It learns that's an eye, that's an ear, that's hair, that's a, whatever it is. And then using that, it will produce a new generation of something inspired by it. Right? And artists have always been inspired by other artists, right? You can going back to the analogy in the architectural world, architects look at other buildings and they design similar ones and they evolve it and things like that. But it's important to, to consider what is being trained on, right? So when people say, well, this is an indemnified model that allows you to use it because the content that it's been trained on respects the artist's rights. Even though it's not stealing the exact part of that image, it is being trained on that. It is being inferenced from that. It is learning from that. So in the same context of that animated style with the Ghibli, that people are like, oh, well, it's learned what that is. Like in the same way, early days of Photoshop learned what watercolor is. So you could take a photo and make it look like a watercolor painting, or you could make it look like an oil painting, things like that. It learns what those are and then applies that to the next generation. So it is a touchy subject for a lot of people, but I always like to point out that it's not exactly lifting the exact thing, it's learning from it. And we've seen this over and over with, music and art and all of these kinds of things. You learn from the ones that came before you, you build on the shoulders of those giants, and you continue forward, right? There's a lot of music today that sounds like music from 20 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever. That's great. It's just more stuff, and it's more inspirational. But I do want to make sure that we understand the respect of the artist's rights when you're training on something. You shouldn't just go into somebody's folder and grab their stuff if they said, no, I don't want you to train on mine. Okay, then don't. But if you have the rights, like the Adobes and Runways and others are really adhering to that to make sure it's trust in, trust out, then yes, you should be able to do whatever you want with it.
So I work for a film school, and something that we started to look at over the last 18 months or so is how do we change the way we teach? Not do we change the way we teach, but how do we change the way we teach?
Yeah.
Given that there are so many workflows now that have revolutionized several skill sets within all the job roles of media and entertainment. And it's always a conundrum on do I do what I used to do earlier and AI, or do I actually replace it, given that I don't see another human doing rotoscopy again, right? So do I even need to teach it?
Yeah. So,
or storyboarding or something like that?
well, again, it comes down to the basics, right? If you teach the basics on how to make a film and how to, from a treatment to a storyboard to the production, et cetera, you understand the fundamentals with which you then can instruct AI to do that. But there's another important aspect around teaching that I think is one that teachers in particular should be harnessing, and that's the agentic AI aspect of it. To be able to train models on particular aspects of teaching to inspire and mentor the future generation of people learning, right? I know in a conversation with some folks at a film school recently, we talked about, wouldn't it be great if models were trained on filmmakers, so I could learn a style from a John Huston or a Steven Spielberg or others, and have an agentic AI as my little mentor, my assistant, as I'm learning, and I can understand what a pull zoom is and things like that, because I have that inspiration, right? I think the idea that you can have a dialogue with these things because they've been trained in that context for what you're after will inspire a lot more people to want to get into that industry, right? And same with musicians and things like that. So I think there's a wonderful opportunity to really revolutionize the education process using AI in those contexts.
The Minister mentioned that India is a land of stories which have been going around for several centuries. And we have very interesting stories which engages the minds of hundreds of Indians. And whether these stories can be converted into a visual mode through the AI. And we have several opportunities in India.
Yes, really interesting point for a number of reasons. As a musician, and I'm a drummer, some people may say, is that really a musician? But that's a whole other story. The time signatures and things for Indian music on tablas and stuff fascinates me to no end. It's just, it's a different type of rhythm, and when it gets hypnotic and things like that. I think to your point, it's a challenge. Like, what can we do with AI to help that experience and that understanding of the complexities of Indian music and stuff to get out to further people out there? There's lots of musicians that have, even the Beatles tapped into it a little bit, right? But I think to your point, how do you teach that? Because it's not something that's just a 4x4 and things like that. It's a very complex understanding. It's as much emotional as it is technical. And so that's probably an opportunity for someone to be able to take that, harness it, and try to build a model onto that context. So I hope so, because it's fascinating. And it's like, the more you, as a musician or any kind of artist, you want to learn more, you want to evolve, and being able to bring that kind of flavor into what you're doing, that's a joy. Yeah. The concept of synthesis. Yeah, I did a talk at CES where I started is about AI in the creative space, and I started with quotes that said, "Oh, this is going to kill creativity. You're going to people out of jobs and stuff." And I said those are actually quotes from 1979 and 80 and 81 about sampling. And then I talked about how sampling was so disruptive when it came in because musicians said, "Wait a minute, that's John Bonham's drum. That's not your drum. That's, you know." And then what happened is it became a tool. And also what happened is it worked itself out so the compensation for using that sample paid back to the original artist. And there's a number of artists that have made more money on their samples than they ever did on their song. You ask the Tom Tom Club and stuff like that. There's just a ton of stuff out there. But the point that I think is the one that people need to understand is it becomes another tool, right? Just because you can sample something doesn't make you a musician. Using that tool in a creative method gives you the ability to dip into that palette of what you want to do with it, and then you get to evolve it. So that those people that were the naysayers in the beginning of sampling then ended up embracing it and using it, you know? So you have, you know, the Stevie Wonders and the Peter Gabriels and all those ones that started using it right away, and it inspired a whole next generation of artists that, you know, and rappers and everything else started doing this stuff, which is great. It's a new art form, and it's an evolving art form. And I think that AI is a lot like that. I always look at these things as, you know, they're evolutionary. They're taking the context of what you want to do and giving you more to do and more to play with. And the end results are amazing. You know, I'm on the board of the Runway AI Film Festival that's going on. And on my plane ride over here, that short little plane ride, I was working on judging the latest for the film festival. And it's amazing how fast, from the few years that I've been doing this, the first year it was kind of like, I can do AI, and there's like weird shots and all this kind of stuff. Now it was like storylines. And AI was embellishing it, and there were things that were happening in it. And it was so much more joyous to be able to watch these pieces because I was taken into the story. It wasn't just like, you know, in the days of desktop publishing, people made a slide and they had 50 fonts on it because they could. And you're like, "Oh, it doesn't really do it for me," right? Then it evolved and it got better and everything else. And I think that's what we're seeing with AI. And it's certainly evident in the content from these film festivals. They're storytellers, and they're telling a story, and they just happen to be using AI as part of that process.
Yeah, before you go there, there's a point that I think is really critical. So all the musicians got the fact that you can underline structures be understood by AI. A lot of people think that language model means they've only understood the language. But this very basis has come in last few years, the transformer engine. What it's helping you to do is anything that has a structure can be understood, including why Indians drive the car as close as they do without denting.
That's a whole AI model that.
More importantly, it understands proteins, amino acids. Marine drive cleaning can be done if you understand amino acids and how it works. And that's the beauty. So I know that all of you loving about the fact that how evolution takes place, how you benefit once the disruption has taken place, and it's all human ingenuity that helps you to get to next capital. The opportunity is absolutely immense, and I thought I should bring in that point.
Absolutely. I mean, when I asked the question on my first day here, watching all this traffic, and I'm like, how come people aren't hitting one another, especially the three-wheelers are like zooming in and out and all that? Because they don't. They just don't. It's like it was just a natural, like, that's how it is. Yeah, and it was like ballet, as the way I described it, is that it's a organized chaos that if you come from the outside and see it for the first time, it's like disruptive. You're like, whoa, like somebody said, yeah, just rent a car. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that anytime soon here. But when you look at it and you step back and you watch the traffic, it's like, oh, it is, there's a cognitive understanding of things that just
There's
flow.
a pattern.
Yeah, and it's like, because it is.
It's called honking.
Oh, the honking is another, that, it's like, you don't have to honk so much, like.
Hi, my name is Kishore.
Okay.
Right here. So I recently started generating music using AI. I write my own lyrics and started generating songs. I could distribute it to some of the streaming services, but some streaming services are rejecting it, saying this is AI-generated content. How do you think we can convince these streaming companies that what we are generating using AI is also original content, given that
boy. Yeah,
I am writing the lyrics there.
Well, even if you were using AI in part of the lyrics, you're still creating something to share with others, right? When people say, oh, you know, like there was a film festival like this, a non-AI film festival, nobody can use AI, and I was like, did you write a script for the part that you're doing? Yes. Did you use autocorrect or spell check? Yeah. Well, then you used AI. Did you take a photo? Yeah. Did you use autofocus? Well, then you used AI. And you start dismantling this argument pretty quickly. You know, I think it's a fear and uncertainty of just what it means. Like when somebody buys a Casio keyboard, there's a button that says, you know, hit it and it'll play a bunch of demos and stuff. How many times have you played that and said, oh, I'm going to put that in my library and listen to it all the time, right? There's no taste there. It's an example of what can be done. An artist that can harness these tools and do things with it does it with a flavor, does it with a taste. And to be able to share that out, it's your prerogative to do whatever you want. Andy Warhol shared a soup can and made millions of dollars for a soup can that already existed. He just reimagined it in a different type of color palette, and it became a thing, right? So I think this is just, it's part of the process of people understanding you're not going to make it go away just because you say, no, you can't do that because it was AI. No, you should be able to embrace it and understand it and say, all right, at least let people know that you did it. Like if I, as a photographer, if I'm doing something in Lightroom and I modify it or I use AI to remove something in the background because it's a lot easier than doing it by hand, right? A lot easier. Anybody that's ever done rotoscoping or other things, if you can say there's that object, it identifies the object, say please remove that object, and using generative AI it removes it. In the file information it says this file has been adjusted with AI. That's okay. I don't care. I'm still giving you the image I wanted to. Right? I could have done it by hand and it would have taken me hours, or I could have done it in 30 seconds using the AI tool. What's the production is the image that I'm presenting. And in your case, the production is the music that you're creating. And however you create that, that's your prerogative. If people enjoy it, great. But you should have every right to be able to share that.
That's where I kind of got puzzled. Like some do allow, and I actually met a distributor here who said that no, we are actually working with the recording companies or the streaming services to stop using AI music.
Oh.
And that's kind of hit me hard.
How many artists use auto-tune? That's AI, right? I mean, come on. It's just a matter of them understanding and learning. And it'll get there. So be patient. You're further advanced than some of these folks are. That's all I
And
would
if you're
say.
getting puzzled, that means you're an early adopter.
Yes,
You'll
exactly.
always have nayers than the sayers.
Yeah.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for coming to India and spending time with us here. I'm here.
Yeah, there you are.
I think just, I'm
So,
sorry.
just one quick
Last
question.
question,
I was
probably.
raising
We're going to
hands
stay here all day.
So the AI, the image and the video tools are not there quite yet, like professionally.
Right.
They are for all the tools are made for consumers right now, and it takes a lot of offline traditional method work to make it put it out for a client.
Yeah.
So what do you think the problem is? They are not training the models better, or we have to throw GPUs at it?
Oh, no, we're in the very, very early stages, but there are actually a lot of studios that are using AI. As a matter of fact, studios have been using AI for over a decade in the generative AI to be image creation stuff. They're starting to use it now for backgrounds and effects and things like that, and that'll just continue to get better. To your point on why isn't more being done with it? Like, we're in the very, very early stages of harnessing this power, right? So when you create something, one of the challenges is if you create something, you go, I want to create it the exact same way, but from a different angle, is you're not going to get the exact same shot. It's going to be a reimagination of that. And that's one of the challenges that the generative AI companies are facing, but they're working to solve that. So you can relight and move your camera. It'll come. It'll be, it'll take time, but we'll get there. And again, you're going to be the one telling the story, so you want to make sure if you do something, you want to do it a different way, that it's consistent to the story that you want to tell. So just give it time.
Any prediction from your side?
Oh, within the next 3 to 5 years, be easy peasy. Yeah.
You use AI and he told you the answer.
Yeah.
Just trying to stop us.
Yeah, I had this dirty job of looking after the watch each time. I'm sorry about that, but well, that's my job here. So you want to make any closing comments, or we should wind up the discussion?
I think there is so much that has come out of this discussion, that this is the first time all of us are experiencing two simultaneous changes that are taking place, both on the compute fabric and the way you talk to the computer to generate AI. And this is an opportunity of lifetime to create your own tokens, learn the monetary value of your own tokens, figure out how to buy tokens, how to sell tokens, and how to use tokens. Think tokens. Tokens are built in AI factories. Figure out if you want to have a replica, whether you are a studio, a musician, or even a manufacturing plant. I think that's the core. And most importantly, this is India's opportunity. For once, we can now do the reverse of amalgamating the whole world here in India and bringing the best of India together.
Absolutely agree. I think that with the instruction from the top down, the Prime Minister so passionate about what the creative community here in India can do and how to share that with other countries, that I think is the most energetic spark that you all need to understand just what the potential is here. Right? There's a lot of stories to be told. There's a lot of creative communities here. There's so much that can be done, and now you're going to have the access to these tools that allow you to do that. And that's why NVIDIA is here. We want to partner with you on this journey, right? We don't think of it as just a one-stop thing. We are here, and we are present because we love to learn and understand the challenges that you have and help you solve those things. That's what it's about for us. We're in this as a partnership. So thank you very much for having us.